Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Marvel Legendary unboxing. This is for the Marvel Cinematic Universe set, The Infinity Saga. So there hasn't been a ton of the cinematic stuff, which you'll have realistic pictures as opposed to comic book pictures. That's, stills from the movies or TV shows. Started off with Phase 1, which is more or less a reprint of existing characters. They did add some new stuff in there, which is definitely fun. But all the heroes were just reprints of the regular heroes. But again, it was just to be a base set, so it kind of made sense. And they were just testing out the waters. But then they did Spider-Man Homecoming, which had all brand new characters. Then they didn't do anything for a long time. It was just assumed they abandoned the cinematic universe. And then recently, we've gotten a bunch of them, because we got Guardians of the Galaxy, which covers Volume 1 and Volume 2, and then now we're heading into the Infinity Saga, which ends it with Infinity Wars and Endgame. So we're going to get our 5 brand new heroes, 2 new masterminds, some teams, some villain groups, and some new powers. So just to clarify, in case you didn't know, this can be played with all of the comic book ones as well. You can mix and match if you don't care that you have comic book pictures next to realistic characters, or you can just purchase the other things. I know that some people might want to discount it because they're different, but there's some neat, cool effects in here and new abilities that might eventually show up in other sets, because I know like the Spider-Man set added Danger Sense, which could start appearing in some of the other comic book sets as well. So hopefully that'll happen, but you might not want to wait. But yes, you're going to notice there's a DC Injustice playmat behind me. This is our Marvel DC crossover. Yes, you have Infinity Saga. All 5 or 6 Avengers, rather, are part of the art. Well, all the characters are Avengers. So this also has a higher variety of cards. So they've done this in a few sets now. So usually it's, a 1 rare card, 2 sets of uncommons, and 2 sets of commons, so you only have 5 different cards. Here you have 1 rare, 2 copies of each of the 2 uncommons, and 3 copies of each of the commons. So you get a little bit less of some of the cards, but you're going to get, instead of a 1, 3, 5, 5 breakdown, you have a 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. This is so they could add extra cards in there. And this is kind of nice for a set like this, because who knows when we're going to get to see these characters more. Plus, they get to use these abilities a little bit better. So let's look through our new keywords quick. We have Endgame. So there are going to be various enemies that are going to have Endgame effects like +3 attack. So if it's the Endgame, whenever the villain deck holds 8 cards per player or fewer. So if you're playing a 2-player game, that's 16 cards. If you're playing a 4-player game, that would be 32 cards. So it goes up so you hit the end game quicker when there's more players. So the more people you're playing with, the quicker you're going to hit it. So the effects will be hitting off a lot harder earlier on. But as soon as you hit that, you'll get that. Now, there is some other rules for that up here at the top. One thing is Captain Marvel is in here. She occasionally gets like ability as well. Works the same way. There's second dot here saying if you reach endgame and cards are somehow added back into the deck, it might not be endgame anymore. Also, there are cards that might activate endgame for like a single turn, or for just the heroes or just the villains for a specific amount of time. So that can happen too, as long as it's either under that amount of cards or something has turned it into endgame for a turn, those effects will be active. This big chunk down here saying might help for endgame to count the 8 cards per player and either set them in a separate deck off to the side like next to it, just so you know that like, hey, when you're down to them cards, now the endgame starts. Or turning them sideways underneath. The only problem you end up with there would be if you have to keep shuffling cards back in due to your Steam or a villain, is that then you have to keep recounting them cards back out. But that is always just something potential you can do. If that would be easier to remember when it hits, or how close it's going to hit. So you have to keep trying to count all the time. Our next new ability is Sacrifice. So various abilities will have something, sacrifice and then something. It might have a superpower in front of it, it might not. But it just says you may KO this card to use a sacrifice ability only if you played another, for this specific one, you have to play a ranged card first, like you would any other ability to activate it. If any card says sacrifice and then do this ability, as you play the card, you can opt to sacrifice it and KO it. You still get all its normal effects and anything outside of the sacrifice ability. But then once you sacrifice it, it is no longer in play. So it still counts as a card you played this turn for activating other effects, but it's no longer in play. So something's counting what you currently have on the table or you have, it won't count that because you've lost it. You do not have to play a sacrifice ability, but if you do, you have to do it as you play the card. You can't choose to sacrifice, after you've drawn 3 more cards and you've done something else. So a returning keyword is phasing. So phasing basically says you may swap this card with the top card of your deck. So this isn't a draw effect or a playing effect or putting a card on top of your effect. All this is basically letting you do is take a card and basically be like, oh, this has Recruit. I don't have enough Recruit to buy anything, so maybe I'll swap it with the top card of my deck, and then maybe that top card will now be something better. Or you can say, now I can save this Recruit for my next turn. You can use the setup effects combo in that way, or if you already knew it was on top of your deck from some other effect, you could phase and get that card to your hand quicker. So there's a lot of good uses for it. It's a pretty fun way to, swap cards around saving players. We also have 2 other special types of cards. We have multi-class cards, which are just hero cards that have multiple classes, so like Instinct and Covert, which counts as both. Pretty simple. If something requests to look for a certain kind, or if you played it, it counts as either or both. And then we have divided cards, which are 2 small cards on 1 card. So this one's for Wanda and Vision specifically, why we technically have 6 heroes. And so basically, when you play the card, you either play the left half or you play the right half. And then whichever half you play, you ignore the other half, pretend it doesn't exist. But while it's in your hand, it's still hand, discard, deck, HQ, any of that. It still counts as both sides. So if one side's, Covert and the other side's Tech, you can search for either one of them. Or the costs are always the same, so if it costs 3, both sides cost 3. If it has something that searches for attack or recruit, and one side has attack, one side has recruit, you can search for either side. Then the last thing I have mentioned here is just Thanos and his Infinity Stones, which is of course how the end game has to go. And more or less, this is just saying this is a really difficult group. Infinity Stones to fight. It says, but remember, if you're playing a 1-player game, you don't always have to use the Masterminds always lead. You can swap stuff around. But it says, if you're playing someone fast who references the Infinity Stones, which is his group, it's going to reference one of those other groups. You'd have to pick a different group to replace that. So it's not like you can say, oh, lots of his abilities say, if you play an Infinity Stone, I can get rid of this. He's going to be a lot weaker because his effects won't work. Nope. If you instead swap in the Children of Thanos for him, then those guys will gain from his ability. Alright, so that's what we have. Let's go ahead and hop in and see what our heroes are. We're going to start with the double pair. We have WandaVision. Or Wanda and Vision, rather. So it actually makes this really interesting here. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit better lighting for y'all. Kind of a dark card to begin with. The one thing I don't like about these, they cinematic cards, and they do this with the Versus game as well, is they put the giant logo on the front, kind of covering up the picture. I'm like, I wish they could, put a tiny little one, in the corner here or something, where I know that's where VP goes, so maybe, off to the side. I just hate that it blocks everything. Because usually the logos for these movies are so big. But they're showing that, Like, that one's from Infinity Wars versus, and we're gonna Captain Marvel here. Hers is from Endgame. So they do kind of show what they're from. It's just kind of neat as well. In case like you were a fan, you're like, ooh, wonder where that one came from. What movie was that in? Alright, so we have 3 copies of this. It's a 1-cost card, which we don't get a lot of 1-cost cards. It says, we have to destroy it. It's a tech card. 1 recruit with phasing. If you played a tech before, you may sacrifice this to get +3 recruit. You may KO 1 card from your hand or discard pile. So it's actually a really cool effect for like a cheapy 1-cost card. Normally it does 1 recruit, so it's not going to do very much, but and it's, you know, it's not really almost any better than a standard shield officer card, not a shield officer, but you know, standard shield recruit card you would have. But the fact is that at some point, if you played a tech card before, you can sacrifice it and get 3, and because you could phase it, you could be like, oh, I didn't play a tech card this turn. You could phase it, put it on top of your deck, and then next turn, hey, I got it. Sweet, now I can go ahead and use this. Plus, you may KO a card from your hand or discard pile to help you get rid of if you have a weak or a wound in your hand, or discard pile. Or if you want to get rid of another basic card or a different card quick, it can let you do that as well. Then we have 3 copies of Witchcraft, which is a covert card, 2 for 3. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it has an odd number cost, draw it. 0 is even. So that's actually kind of cool too. So it works with that phasing card, because you can phase, swap out that other card, draw a card, and you can play this to reveal that card. Hey look, it's a 1. You get to draw it right back, then you can use the phasing effect a second time if you chose to. So some interesting combos with that. There's a decent number of cards. All of the cards in the WandaVision set are odd, so that works as well. Then we have 3 copies of our first double. So we have Hold On and Let Go, a covert and ranged. So Hold On has 1 attack for 3, but if you play a covert before, you get +2 attack. And Let Go has range. There's a ranged card with 2 recruit and phasing. Sacrifice. Draw 3 cards. You may KO a card from your hand or discard pile. So the vision cards seem to be like really kind of going. They're gonna have the phasing effect. They're gonna let you sacrifice, and they're gonna let you KO extra cards. Kind of like tighten your deck up and make it stronger. Get rid of cards you don't need. Hey, I bought these, 2 cards. Now I'm starting to get a lot more 5s and 6 cards. I can get rid of some of my 2 cards, make just more powerful cards. Plus, Wanda's cards seem to be working well together with her phasing or her searching for odd. So the next 2 cards we have are Rage and Grief. So zoom in a little bit more on that one. Wanda's Rage. Covert, 2 attack for 5. If a hero is put into the KO pile this turn, you get +2 attack. So again, going to work well with the vision cards. Or you can do Grief, which is tech 2 for 5 as well, but this is recruit. Phasing, if a Master Strike was completed this turn, you get 2 additional recruit. So that's kind of a neat effect, but it's going to be very situational. Because you don't know if a Master Strike was going to happen or not. If it didn't, you drew a card and it didn't happen, you can always phase this and keep trying it until you get one. Which might not be a bad idea. Alright, then our next 2 are Magic and Science. Ranged magic card has 1 attack. Get +1 for each other hero with an odd number cost you played this turn. This is going to work well with her playing extra cards for destroying cards or finding cards, and then the phasing cards coming back. It could be helpful. And then Science. Phasing, you get play attack, you get +2 attack. So very interesting. And then their final card is the Odd Couple. Ranged and covert. Phasing, 4 for 7. You play a ranged card, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. You may put one of them with an odd number cost into your hand. You may KO one of them and put the rest back in any order. Now, you do not have to KO. You may KO. Alright, so 4 for 7 is okay. It's not incredible. And there's nothing in here that's going to make that any better. But the fact that it has phasing is pretty cool, because then if you're like, hey, 4 attack isn't enough on this turn, I have, 2 other attack, I can only do 6 damage, it's not enough to take out, some of these big guys. You can phase them, guarantee you have 4 attack on your next turn. Plus, or if you didn't play any range characters, you could wait, phase them, and then use it next turn. Hopefully you draw a range in the next one. Because then if you're drawing, you get an extra, the top 5 cards of your deck, and you get 1 extra odd, which end up giving you another really good card as well. Especially if like another big card is like 5 or 7. That could be pretty sweet. Plus, like, if it worked with this, if you drew this, it says if a hero is put into the KO pile this turn, you get 2. Well, you could KO a hero, KO something cheap, and get an extra 2 there. So now you have your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right there. So that's not bad at all. Definitely some good options there. Alright, so that's Wanda and Vision. Alright, let's jump to our another interesting hero. We have Bruce Banner. So not the Hulk, but we have Bruce Banner. This is one thing that's kind of interesting that the cinematic universe is doing, is they are playing with using the non-superhero identities. I get that Wanda's just referred to as Wanda because she wasn't Scarlet Witch until the WandaVision series. But in Spider-Man Homecoming set, we got Peter Parker and we got Tony Stark. And in this set, we're getting Bruce Banner. So that's kind of cool too. So we're getting a couple of the different characters in their alternate forms to show that, hey, they're not just the superheroes in the movies. They play a little bit more the other direction. Alright, so we have 3 copies of Burst of Rage, which is our strength. Of course, we're going to have our strength cards. Pay 1, play a strength card and sacrifice. You get you get plus 3 attack. You may KO a card from your hand or discard pile. So this is just like the WandaVision one right off the bat. Except theirs are getting recruit, and it has a phasing ability. This one gets you attack. And it doesn't have the phasing, but it still costs 1. But I like the idea of these 1-cost cards. Are kind of fun. I almost wish there were more, because it'd be kind of a neat one to like include with your characters. Alright, then we have 3 copies of Brains and Bronze. We're going to kind of start showing some of the evolution of Bruce Banner throughout this series. Strength and Tech. If you play both, you get plus 2 attack. So 2 for 3 is pretty average. If you play both, which could be kind of tricky to do, but 4 early on is not bad at all. I see this as an absolute win. Then he's got 3 copies of the Hulkbuster armor, which is just tech. I want to say I think this is maybe like one of the first Hulks that is not pure strength, but I could be wrong. World War Hulk might have had some instinct cards in there as well. To recruit for 4, you may KO a wound from your hand or discard pile. If you do, get plus 2 recruit. I'm thinking I'm getting the hang of it. Wow, it's like being the Hulk without actually... that's kind of fun too. So yeah, you get extra additional recruit if you have a wound. So basically, you're going to of course get a two copies of Hulk Get Smashed. Strength card. Play a strength, you may gain a wound. If you do, K up to 2 other cards from your hand or discard pile. So this gives you 2 strengths. This will give you your wound if you want. You can KO other wounds or KO other things to make your deck a little bit tighter or stronger, which is definitely fun. 2 copies of Crush Puny Weaklings. This is him using his Hulkbuster. Tech, you get plus 1 attack for each henchman in your victory pile. Ha! You guys are so screwed now. Yeah, 6 for 3 isn't the best. But the idea is that as you play through the game, it's going to get better and better. Because there's 10 henchmen in a set, so you could, if you work with your team and you let Bruce Banner here focus on the henchmen and let the other characters do this, or whoever buys this card, because obviously everyone can buy one. You let 1 or 2 players focus on that, then you could definitely do some good cards. You can usually get up to like 6, 7, 8 damage. Alright, then our last Bruce Banner card is Reverse the Snap. Tech card, play tech and sacrifice. Gain up to one other hero from the KO pile. Then combine your deck and discard pile. Put all those cards that cost 0 into your discard pile. Now shuffle the rest into a new deck. So 5 for 7 is not bad. So gain up to one other hero from your KO pile. Okay, cool. So that's kind of neat. You can sacrifice something earlier, and then, or somebody else could have sacrificed them, and then now you can get that card back. So that's kind of fun. Basically, you have to get rid of this to do that, though. This is a good one-time use effect. This is combine your deck and discard pile. Put all those cards that cost 0 into your discard pile, and it'll shuffle a new deck. So that's kind of neat. So you are getting, you're playing this, now you're getting another card from outside the game, which, you know, by the time you're getting this towards the end game of the game, you'll have a lot more options. Although it sucks it's a one-time use, but you'll get that, and then now you'll start your next deck with all your good cards, including the one you just got. It would be neater if that one went right to your hand instead of just gaining it, because then it just goes in your deck. But that's alright. But basically, yeah, now your next hand you're going to draw, which is like the delay in the snap, is just going to be your good cards. So if you've been discarding and KOing other stuff and getting rid of, like, you know you're going to get this or play that direction, you don't have to worry about your 0-cost cards. But if you start getting rid of, like, your 1s and 2s and, like, the weak ones like that, so your deck was only filled with, like, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, or higher, you've got a really next good turn with this card, which I think is the point of it. Alright, that was Bruce. Alright, up next we have 3 copies of Doctor Strange. Open portals. I'm going to try to adjust this a bit more. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Alright, so this is a ranged card. 2 costs for 1. So it's the first one we haven't had sacrifice right off the bat. Well, of course, you get the phasing ability, and if you play a ranged card, you get 2 additional recruit. I think you'll find your wills equal to yours. This is definitely always a good card. Cheap way to get 1, and then you can phase it to get that extra recruit later. Potentially get more if you bought more blue cards. But it's also one of the things where, like, you could set up multiple phasing in a row. If I had this card, if I had 2 copies, if I phased 1, you could, I guess. You phased 1, you know it's on top of your deck. No, because it'd be on the next turn. You'd have to have 3 of them. But it's a possibility. Or you have a different draw card. Next one we have 3 copies of Defend This Dimension. Which is an instant card. It's our first instant for the game. Instant, reveal the top card of your villain deck. If it's a villain, you get 2 attack. Thanos can destroy life on a scale hitherto undreamt of. So 2 for 3, pretty typical. Get ability to have an extra 2. If nothing else, you'll at least get to see what's coming up. So you flip it, chances are it's typically going to be one of 4 things. Either a villain, most likely, possibly a henchman, but if it's even a Steam Twist or a Master Strike, at least you know that that's coming up the next. So that's kind of a nice upside of that, if nothing else. Then he has 3 copies of Sift Futures, which is instant and range, who has phasing. Choose a hero class, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a hero class you named, draw it. And your hero classes are, again, instinct, covert, range, tech, strength. But with phasing, yeah, you can basically use this. Again, I was just saying, you gotta combine this. You can combine this with that, with those other cards. You know, hey, I phased 1. I know I have a blue card on top of my deck. You could then play this. You know, to activate, hey, I've played my blue card, and then, you know, like, you could phase with this, put it on top of your deck, play this, to look at your top card, knowing that it's a range card. Pull it out. Now you draw it. Now you can play it. You have access to your blue already, so now you get 3 recruit there. So you can do little things like that. Definitely interesting combos. We have 2 copies of Invoke the Time Stone. 2 for 5. Phasing. Blue Sacrifice. Take another turn after this one. Don't play a card from the villain deck at the start of that turn. So that's a pretty powerful sacrifice effect. Again, not a lot of recruit phasing, so you can kind of use it when you need, but you have to have a blue card to activate it first. But getting an extra full turn without a villain could be very, very powerful. There's a lot of times when you just need that extra little boost. And then you also have cards like, again, Wanda, which could tie into that very well. If phasing through the top cards of your deck, put one of them, an odd number in your hand. You may KO any of them. So you could combine that with this. If you've already played a blue card, because then you get, well, once you played this, then you'd have your blue card played. If you played another one to get the other reveal effect, then you could find that card, sacrifice that, get an extra turn as well. Something like that would be pretty good. Or reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an odd number, draw it. That could help you get that card out quicker. Some things like that. So some good synergy between these characters. We have 2 copies of Bind Evil. It's an instant. Reveal the top card of the villain deck. If it's a Master Strike, KO that strike. You get 3 attack and put it on, and put a card from the bystander deck on top of the villain deck. Oh, that's actually pretty fun too. Like with that other one, because again, you reveal it. If it's a Master Strike, awesome. If not, then you know, like, hey, there we go. I got a bonus. If not, you know, it's all right. Then at least you know what's coming up next. 4 for 6 isn't bad, but also it could be potentially 7. Plus bystanders. Now, the only thing is I wish, whenever they have something like this that involves bystanders, so far this is the only card, I wish they included some bystanders in the set, or some more special ones. The cinematic universe doesn't have a lot of special bystander cards, but I think it would be a great way to, like, add some of the, smaller characters in there. They've done this with the regular comic book ones, where they had, the special groups, like, I think it was like the New Mutants. There were bystanders as well, because then they'd be in the bystander deck, but then you pull them out and they'd be heroes. That'd be a cool way to get like some of like the other characters. Like, oh, we don't want to make a full Winter Soldier, a full Shuri. I mean, they could now with their new series, but at the time, if they're going before that, you could definitely add some of these other characters in there. All right, then his big ultimate card is 1 in 14,065. When he checks out the alternate realities, or timelines. So it has instinct, sacrifice. That's the name of the top card of the villain deck. Then reveal it. If you guessed right, draw 6 cards. So this has to work really well if you're using his other cards. Or if you have another character that can look at the top cards of the deck. Otherwise, this is going to be a gamble at best. And it's probably not worth sacrificing for. But if you played it just right and you've done it, drawing an extra 6 cards is not bad. Also being the fact that you can set up some really interesting combos with some of these. You know, like with the Hulk one, like you could then sacrifice his and then like get your pile back first and then use this one afterwards. If you knew that top of that card, then you could draw 6 of those cards right away. You could easily kill multiple masterminds or villains in a row. So it could be pretty cool. Could be some interesting synergy. Alright, our 4th Avenger. We have Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. So we have 3 copies of Infused by the Tesseract. So she has, this is kind of cool because she has dual symbols on her card. It says not instinct. It's a range card. She has recruit and attack. Draw a card. If you're in the end game, this card makes attack instead of recruit. The Tesseract contain even greater power. even greater power, the Space Stone. So yeah, 3 for 1 and drawing a card. 3 for drawing a card's not bad. Getting to switch between attack and defense when you can't choose to, or sorry, attack and recruit is okay, I guess. But like the fact you can't choose really when that happens, is kind of interesting. Alright, so then we have 3 copies of Return from the Stars. So there's Strength cards. She has 2 recruit. Play Strength, you get 2 extra recruit. Endgame, this card makes all attack into recruit instead of recruit. The things that are happening on Earth are happening everywhere. So this is kind of looks like her sort of gimmick, at least these 2 cards are, is that as you get to the end, her starts off, she just uses it to recruit cards. And then instead you can turn it into where her cards give you recruit or attack instead. So later in the game, when you don't need to buy stuff, she gets more powerful for that. So she has 3 copies of Turning Point, just strength and range. For the rest of this turn, it is the end game for your hero cards. If it was already end game, you get +2 attack. So this will let you force that. To get them attack effects, or you can get an extra bunch of attacks. So this is what's kind of nice. Like I said, the first one, it's like having the ability to change between recruit and attack, but you don't have an option on when that happens, kind of sucks. But when you have a card like this, you can then force that to happen whenever you need it to, or if you have this card, of course. Does make those cards a lot more versatile. Then she has 2 copies of Dawning Hope, another ranger card. Kind of interesting. A rare card or an uncommon card that costs 2. Draw a card. If you've already drawn any cards this turn, draw 2 cards instead. Interesting. So it's not it's a late game card that costs 2. For 2 draw, that's, the fact is, if you get this early on, that's nice, because I'm like, compared to that one, but possible option to draw 2 cards instead, not bad. I just feel like it's limited. It's an interesting way to use the uncommon spot. Usually it's usually the uncommons are always higher costs. It's kind of neat to utilize this mechanic of having the lesser cards in the uncommon slots to just be like, hey, we can put a more powerful cheap card in there because you're not going to get a lot of it. So that's kind of a neat idea. Moment of Destiny, Strength. If you play a range card, you get 2 attack. Answer the question. Yeah, so it's not bad either. 6 Strength, plus she has plenty of ranged. A lot of other characters in here, of course, are going to work with that. And her ultimate is Time to End It. Her other ranged card. 5 attack for 8. You get +1 attack for each other ranged and her strength card played this turn. Endgame. Instead, you get +2 attack for each. Cool. So yeah, if she... The weird thing about this game is, so it's like, all her cards work really well together. But the thing is, you're typically not only buying cards for just one person. So, you can spread it out. So far, with our other characters, you could get some Doctor Strange cards, which might help. With his phasing abilities, because they're all on his blue cards. Or the Hulk has strength cards, which could definitely give you some extra power. And then Wanda also has a couple of the Wanda and Vision have some range cards as well. So there's some different other options in this set that can get you those. But I think all her cards are... Well, the first one's odd, so all hers are even. Oh, there's another odd. So I was just trying to see like how well hers would work with the Wanda cards. So they work pretty decent as well. But yeah, that could potentially get very powerful. It says for each other ranged and or strength card you played this turn. So if you play a dual one, you don't get it for both. It's but yeah, this is if you played 4 other cards. 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 more damage. 13 damage. That's enough to take out most masterminds. Not even mention the fact that you could have other card draws. She has multiple card draws. Yeah, definitely could be cool. Alright, that's what we have for Captain Marvel. Our final hero is Black Panther. Black Panther is unique, like he is in all of his sets, because they've had this one, they've had the one from the Black Panther set, they've had, and then one from Secret Wars, where he is in the Illuminati. There might be a fourth one that I can't remember of. There might be a fourth one where he's just a regular Avenger. But yeah, all his cards are dual. So he hits every single aspect, and every Black Panther and every set's been like that. So we have Wakanda Forever. We have 3 copies of this. 1 attack for 2 costs. Play a covert, draw a card. You'll have my King's God, the Border Tribe, the Dora Milaje, and me. I don't remember what he says after that. But yeah, no, that's definitely not bad. Tech or covert and range. This will help you hit Black Panther. Mixing into these cards will definitely help everyone else hit their extra abilities. Drawing a card's not bad. We have 3 copies of the Instinct Covert, Avengers Reassembled. 2 for 3. If you have all 5 hero classes, you get 3 extra attack, which he already has 2 with this card, so you only need to play potentially 2 other cards if you have multi-class cards, but at least 3. Evacuate the city, engage all defense procedures, and get this Manus shield. This should have been fun if we also had that Steve Rogers in this set. That would have been pretty cool. So you had, Bruce Banner, Tony Stark, and Steve Rogers. Yeah, that's not bad at all. You could definitely get up to 5 attack fairly easily with that. We have 3 copies of Great Many Lives Lost. The Strength Instinct. So we went Tech Covert, Covert Instinct, Instinct Strength. And then we get to the last couple there. Alright, so then we have, I don't think we'll hit every combination possible. But we'll hit a decent number of them. 2 for 4, sacrifice up to 2, KO up to 2 cards from your hand or discard pile. You are in Wakanda now. Thanos will have nothing but dust and blood. Again, this set relies not only on sacrifice abilities, sacrifice that card, but it also lets you sacrifice other cards. So it lets you get rid of potentially up to 3 cards out of your deck. With this, hey, I'm done recruiting stuff, I need to focus more on attacking, I can get rid of this, and I can get rid of 2 of my shield cards. Or I can get rid of my level 2 cards and my level 1 cards. So definitely a fun effect with these cards. We have 2 copies of Council of War, Strength and Covert. Gets you 3 recruit for 5. You get +1 recruit for each other multicolored hero you have. It's like everybody has at least 1 card outside of him, outside of Black Panther. If you play a strength, you may have this card make all attacks instead of recruit. So this is kind of a fun one too, kind of like Captain Marvel, except you can kind of control it a little bit better. We can either get a lot of mass recruiting, or if you don't need that, you can switch it over to mass attack. Then he has 2 copies of Vibranium Nanites. Tech and range. 3 attack for 6. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a multicolored, draw it. Otherwise, put it back or discard it. Tech, you may KO that card. Again, nice way to get rid of cards you don't need. Hey, I got a shield card. Just get rid of it. Or you can discard it, which is fun as well. So that way, if you're just hey, I don't want to get rid of this card, but maybe I need more attack. That is a recruit card. I'm going to put it back, and then I can use a phasing card to swap with it. Or you could be I can get rid of it, and I can phase the top card of the next deck. So it's kind of a neat combo. And then his ultimate, Faithful Return. Fateful Return. Instinct and Tech. 0 for 8, which is terrible. On its own. You get +2 attack for each hero class you have. So you can potentially get up to 5. So he can have 10 for 8, which is 10 for 8 is pretty powerful. But it requires at bare minimum again 3 cards to play. But he already has this one, so only 2 more cards. So even just playing this, he has 4 because he has Instinct and Tech out. So 4 for 8 is okay. It's not the best, but the fact you can get up to 10, which again is enough to take out pretty much any villain and almost usually three henchmen, and most masterminds. I mean, there are obviously some masterminds that have more than 10 health. There are some that have more, but also assuming this is you're playing, again, if you get that 10, you're playing bare minimum 2 other cards. Those 2 other cards would only need to have a little bit of attack to definitely boost it. And if you played this one, if you have all 5 hero classes, you get an additional 3. So if you played these 2 together, now you have instant, tech, and covert, and now if you get one other card, you need what? Strength and range. So you'd have, he doesn't have a strength and range card, so you have to play 2 other cards. But if you played a strength with range card in that combination, you're already up to 15. Example, if you play Captain Marvel with that, for end of the game, this is in there, so I had 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 damage between those 3 cards. That's not a bad combination. That can take out some masterminds twice. Alright, let's head into the end game. I'm gonna keep making this stupid joke. Let's look at our masterminds. So this is an interesting one because Ebony Maw does. I mean, yeah, he in the comic books he probably plays a lot bigger role in masterminding stuff. In the movies, he doesn't really do a whole lot. But between Infinity War and Endgame, really the only big bad would have been Thanos, with the exception of, for major stuff, you almost could have put Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight as maybe a combined mastermind, because I think they probably had more screen time than Ebony Maw, or did more damage overall to more people. But yeah, it's definitely cool, because we haven't had an Ebony Maw in the regular set either, so it's a new character. So he has 8 health to beat in his regular mode. Endgame plus 4, so he goes up to 12 if you take too long. Always leads the Children of Thanos. Master Strike. It is the endgame this turn. So if he gets a Master Strike, this attack goes right up. Each player reveals their hand and discards their highest cost hero. If it was already the endgame, KO those heroes. Oh, so that could be bad later on. And then, of course, you have your epic side, which now he has 10 health, he has 5. And his second ability his Master Strike ability is the same, but yeah, now he has up to 15. It also says, at the end game of their turn, players reveal their hand and KO their highest cost. Oh, so it just straight up KOs it, regardless. And then if it's the end game, they play another villain. So that's even worse. I read it first, I thought it was the same, but yeah, that's even worse. Now you have to KO your character. Alright, let's look at his tactics. We have Hear Me and Rejoice. Fight. When you draw a new hand of cards at the end of this turn, draw 2 extra cards. Endgame, same effect, but 3 cards instead. So yeah, if you beat them, you get some extra good abilities. I like these when the villains occasionally have something beneficial towards you for beating them, versus it always just being negative. Especially if it's like, oh, I have 4 tactics, one of the 3 might be helpful. Because that makes you like, hey, maybe I might actually want to beat this. Sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know if I can afford to, Smile. Even in death, KO up to 2 of your heroes. Endgame, then KO up to 1 hero from your discard pile. Up to 1. So you can always do 0 as well. You may think this is suffering. Fight. Each other player reveals a covert hero or gains a wound. Endgame, then each other player reveals a ranged hero or gains a wound. Oh, so that's a bad one. Then his final one is your powers are quaint. Each other player chooses a hero class and reveals their hand and discards all non-gray heroes that aren't that class. Endgame, they also discard all gray heroes. Oh boy, so that could definitely, if you're playing a mono-y colored deck, that could really hurt you. Well, actually, if you're playing all monocolor, it's probably not bad. If you're playing multicolor, then it's bad, because then you might end up having to discard all but 1 or 2 cards. Alright, then we have the Children of Thanos villain group. We have Proxima Midnight. Endgame +3, which puts her up to 10. A 7's already crappy enough, but having her up to 10, it's mastermind level. Ambush. It is the endgame this turn. If it was already the endgame, each player reveals an instant hero or gains a wound, same effect. So yeah, she comes out, she's 10 off the first bat, so you can't beat her until you get on the first turn unless you get her later in the game. Corvus Glaive, it is the endgame this turn. If it was already the endgame, each player KOs a bystander from the victory pile or gains a wound, same effect. This also makes the Mastermind harder to beat that turn because their health goes up. Cull Obsidian, with his like crossbow-looking hammer. Endgame +3. If it is the endgame this turn, if it was already the endgame, each player reveals a hero that costs 6 or more or gains a wound. Alright, so those 3 suck. We have some other ones. We have Outrider Threshers. Endgame +2. KO one of your heroes, then choose any number of heroes from the HQ. Put them on the bottom of the hero deck. Oh, that's bad. So, like, you have to decide who to KO, and then get rid of how many cards. Although the upside of that is you can always get rid of weaker cards that you're not using. We have Chithari Gorilla, Endgame +2, Ambush, Chithari Gorilla captures a bystander. Okay, so that's not too bad. Kind of fun. Endless Armies of the Chithari, +2 for the endgame. KO one of your heroes, then reveal the top card of the villain deck. If it is a Children of Thanos villain, Endless Armies of Chithari re-enters the sewers. Oh, so it starts back over. That's not terrible, but the fact that he also re-enters means if there's someone in the sewers, he now pushes everyone forward. Crazy. Outrider Dropships, endgame +2, Ambush, a villain worth 2 VP, 3 VP, or 4 VP from any player's victory pile enters the city. Crazy. So you have to pick one of these other guys and you have to put them back in, which again, then pushes everything. And then we have just the Outriders, +2, and you may KO a card from your discard pile. Alright, so that's not bad. It would have been kind of neat to also get, like, just, like, maybe, like, Chitharis or maybe the Outriders as, like, Outriders could have been an interesting, henchman group. Because you could have had them, like, be, like, 2 cost or something, but then in the end game they gain +2, so they become 4, which is not as powerful as this, but that could have been a neat extra group. Alright, then our next mastermind, of course, is the big purple guy himself, Thanos. I'm going to try and zoom in his text is a little bit smaller. Thanos gets +1 attack for each Infinity Stone in the city and or escape pile. He leads the Infinity Stones. He has 11 health to begin with, so there's 8 Infinity Stone cards, so you can potentially have 5 if the entire thing is full, plus you could have 3, so you could have extra 8 up to 19, if everything goes crap. Master Strike, the leftmost Infinity Stone in the city escapes. Then an Infinity Stone worth 4 VP enters the city, or more. It should have said, okay, the Infinity Stone worth 4 VP or more enters the city from your victory pile. If you don't have any, each player gains a wound. Thanos wins when 6 Infinity Stones escape. Yeah, it's basically if the Infinity Stones hit the table, you need to take them out as soon as possible. Otherwise, he can get rid of them. Otherwise, yeah, he can keep bringing them back. Even if you defeat them, he can keep bringing them back. So that sucks. But it's an interesting thing with that number, the 4 VP. So we'll take a look at that in a second. Then we have his epic side, so now he gets +2 for each Infinity Stone. He has 13. And it says the lowest attack Infinity Stone in the city escaped. Then the Infinity Stone worth 4 VP or more enters the city from your victory pile. Each player that didn't have any gains a wound, and then Infinity Stone escapes. He wins. So he has a built-in win condition, which most other masterminds don't have. So it went from the leftmost to the weakest. So, or the lowest. So basically he went from, just whichever one's closest to escaping, to now it's whichever one you can defeat the easiest he gets rid of. Alright, let's look at his tactics. We have Destiny Arrives All the Same. Fight. Each other player reveals a hero that would cost 7 or more or gains a wound. Dread it, run from it, and now it's here. Yeah. That's gonna, most people are probably gonna gain a wound. The Snap. Fight. Each other player discards half of their cards, destroy half of the HQ spaces, round down the losses. Turn the heroes that are face down to mark the destroyed spaces. Don't refill those spaces. So this one sucks because then, like, later in the game, now you're only going to have 3 spots instead of 2. Now, if you're playing with another Steam or something like that that destroys city spaces, this could be really bad. Price to pay. Each other player discards cards equal to the number of Infinity Stones in the city and or escape pile or gains a wound. And then his last one is, you should have gone for the head. KO one of your heroes if this is the last mastermind tactic. You do not win the game. Players must fight Thanos one more time to put the mastermind card in their victory pile and win the game. So it forces you have to play that, the end game, and fight him one more time. Alright, now let's look at our Infinity Stones. So we have 8 cards in this set, but we have 6 stones. So we have 2 non-stone cards, which is very interesting. So we have Nebula, the Stone Seeker. So remember, Thanos' ability said 4 VP. She only has 2. So the initial, if you defeat her, she could escape because it says this counts as an Infinity Stone, but she will not. It will work towards his end game, but they will not ever come back out of your victory pile. Ambush. Nebula captures a hero from the officer deck or HQ that costs 4 or less. Fight. KO either that hero or choose a player to gain it. That's kind of a neat effect. Then our other non-stone is the Stone Keeper. Our non-stone because they still count as Infinity Stones. Ambush. If the Soul Stone is in the city or escape pile, each player discards a card. If it is in a player's victory pile, that player draws 2 cards. Fight. Each player KOs one of their heroes. Alright, then we have the Infinity Stones themselves. They're all 5 VP. And I like that they're doing 5, because if there's ever an effect that lowered your VP by 1 for some reason, then these still count. The Mind Stone. The Mind Stone gets +1 attack equal to the highest cost of the hero, equal to the highest cost hero in the HQ. Ambush. All heroes currently HQ cost 2 more this turn, and then fight, gain a hero from the HQ. Alright, so that's not bad. You know, it's normally 1. It could be really high. First turn is going to be a lot harder to defeat. The Time Stone. Endgame, +4. Ambush. Another player. Play another card from the villain deck. Fight. Don't take another turn after this one. Take another turn after this one. Don't play a card from the villain deck at the start of the turn. So it's basically like Doctor Strange's card. We have the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone gets +1 for each other villain in the city. Ambush. Each player without an Infinity Stone in their victory pile KOs a non-gray hero from their discard pile. Fight. Reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. KO one of them and draw the other. So it's going to get rid of one of your cards, sacrificing. The Reality Stone. The Reality Stone gets +1 for each Master Strike in the KO pile or stacked next to the Mastermind. Ambush. Reveal the top 3 cards of the villain deck. Play a Master Strike from among them. put the rest back in any order. Fight, same effect, but KO the Master Strike instead of playing it. Then, whether you KO it or not, put a random bystander from the top of the villain bystander deck on top of the villain deck. Interesting. So this gets more powerful based on Master Strikes. Also interesting you KO it, because that could mess up some schemes. Alright, then we have the Space Stone. The Space Stone gets +1 for each empty space in the city. Ambush, the Space Stone captures 3 bystanders, then move an Infinity Stone from any city space to the bridge. If there's already a villain there, swap them. So it goes in the middle. Fight, move, and or swap any number of villains to other spaces. Move people around. That's kind of cool effect. And then the Power Stone. Power Stone gets +1 attack for each other Infinity Stone in the city or state pile. Ambush, each player without an Infinity Stone in their victory pile gains a wound. KO, fight one of your heroes. Then KO a wound from your hand or discard pile. So extra strength. Okay, cool. Also an interesting thing to note about these is, so if you're a regular comic book one, you've already seen we've had Thanos before, who has a lot more power. I think he starts with 24 in that one. But then he also has a starts with Infinity villain set, but his are the Infinity Gems. So the comic book ones, they have them as gems. The cinematic universe, they have them as stones. So theoretically, if you're mixing sets, you could play either Thanos with a set of Infinity Stones and Infinity Gems. The other big difference here is that these ones have ambush effects, gain extra power for other stuff being in play, and usually have a somewhat helpful fight effect. The Infinity Gems from the other one were artifact cards. So basically, if you defeated them, they came into your possession, and then you could use them at some point to get rid of them playing ability. So that's kind of cool that they made them different. They didn't just copy from the original one. Alright, then we're going to look at the 4 schemes. So we're going to start with Sacrifice for the Soul Stone. Setup. Twist equal to the number of players plus 4. Twist, you may KO one of your non-gray heroes and one of your gray heroes to sacrifice for the Soul Stone. If you do, draw 3 cards, shuffle this twist back into the villain deck, then play another card from the villain deck. If you don't, stack a hero from the HQ next to the Mastermind, sacrificed for the Soul Stone. Evil wins and the Mastermind has sacrificed 5 heroes to the Soul Stone. Yes, this is kind of a tricky one because you have to KO 2 of your cards, non-gray hero, and one of your regular heroes. But you get redraw some cards back, so you get rid of 2, you get 3 cards back. But then this goes back in there, so it's going to have to keep playing. Any other villain's going to pop up anyhow. So it's going to be very tricky, especially with all the KOing effects in this regular set. Because if you KO too many of your gray heroes early on, you might even have to find yourself playing against a scheme that they're not doing that, or buying extra shield officers just to have people to KO. Alright, have all life in the universe. Start out 5 twists on twists 1, 3, and 5. Choose 3 heroes from the HQ and KO them. Twist 2 to 4, deal the hero deck into 2 face down piles as equally as possible. KO one of them. Evil wins when the hero deck or villain deck runs out. Oh, crazy. So right off the bat, you get rid of the first one, you get rid of 3 heroes. Then you get rid of half the deck. So depending on how many cards you bought in there might determine how many more cards you get rid of. Then you get rid of 3 more. Then you get rid of another half of the deck. I'm trying to think of how many cards they normally start with. 14. You bought 100 cards? That's probably not right. So it's 14, 40... about not quite 70 cards. Just guesstimate. So I mean, that's right off the bat, you're already playing 5. So if you said 70, that's 35. Or sorry, 65. And then even if you're assuming you're gonna buy a couple before this, even if the twist is on the first turn, that's 70, 65, 60, 61 cards. So then you draw a twist on your second turn, you still haven't bought anything. That would drop you down to just about 30 cards, 31 cards. Well, it'll be about 30 or 31 cards depending on which side you split. Then you lose another 3 if you drew a third one without buying any, so that would be down to 30, 27. And then you split that again in half, so that's 14 and 13. So now you're down to, let's say, 13 cards. And then if you drew the fifth one, that would be another 3. So now you're down to 12 cards. So if you drew all 5, that's essentially saying you could only buy about 5 cards from the game without losing. Again, there's no chance you're going to draw all 5 right in a row. You're going to be buying some of them. And then if you started with 7 and you bought 10 cards right away, now you're down to 60 before you got the first one. It's going to change the numbers. But that's still pretty crazy to think about. Alright, now we have some longer, crazier ones. We have the Time Heist. 11 Twist. Use 4 heroes in the hero deck plus 4 other heroes to make the past hero deck. So, you cannot play this game by itself. You have to own one or the other. Another expansion. If you only own the base game, that's fine, because you could use the base game 4 base game 4 from this, or however. Above the board, make room for an alternate city called the Past. It has a normal 5 spaces, sewer to bridge. The Past has its own Past HQ, filled by past hero decks. To start, say, play as if the Past city HQ and hero deck doesn't exist. So basically, you have 2 game fields. Your regular set is the Past, and then your one that's the current set. So on odd twists, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, till the next twist, move the villain deck to the Past and play it as if the Past city, HQ, and hero decks exist, while the normal city do not, using normal deck spaces for everything except this city. HQ. So, like, the Mastermind, still only one Mastermind. The villain deck, then you only draw and it goes to that one pile. So it's kind of interesting because it's going to split you're not splitting the villain pile in half. So, like, you're going to take some from one, then go some up to the other, and then go back and forth between twists. So you could get lucky, like, oh, the city's overfull and we can't deal with it. And then you might go to the Past, and also, now we get to start kind of fresh again. So that could be very helpful for you. But if it hits twist 10 regardless, you lose. But yeah, that's a very interesting, different mode. Gets you 8 heroes instead of 5, so you have 3 more heroes to play as, but you don't get access to all of them at the same time. What would be really interesting to do I don't think in the cinematic universe there's enough versions of each character. I don't think there's like 2 of every character to play that way. So it'd be kind of interesting to play this mode in the comic book universe, because there are different versions of the characters. So you could have like past Iron Man, past Captain America, past Thor, and past Spider-Man against like future versions of them. So that'd be kind of a neat way to play something like that. Alright, then the last one is also a very weird mode, which I love these schemes. They're like, they take the game and they make you play it differently. So warp reality into a TV show. 11 twists. The rightmost space represents TV shows from the 50s. The space on its left is the 60s, the 70s. And the city only has those 3 spaces. The HQ is only 3 spaces beneath those. Move the Mastermind and Officer decks to mark the city's left edge. So basically you're going to have, from the sewers, it's going to be the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then you're going to set the decks over there so you know where they end. And it says, on twist 1 to 4, another TV show city space appears to the left of the city, represents the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. Another HQ appears. So you start with only 3 spaces to earn from, so villains can escape quicker. But you only have 3 things to buy. Then as you get twists, you're going to add up to 6. Then 5 through 11, destroy the rightmost TV show and the HQ space beneath it. KO any hero in that space, push forward any villain there, move the villain deck and hero deck to mark the right city space. Evil wins and LTV is destroyed. So yeah, you start with 3, and then you add another 4. So that's kind of neat. So you're going to have 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces instead of 6, or instead of 5. But then you're going to slowly start destroying the end ones, which is kind of interesting in and of itself. So that's kind of a fun mode as well. Alright, so this is a super long video, but that is the legendary Infinity Saga. So again, yeah, if you don't mind mixing and matching the cinematic with the comic book style, there's a lot of cool new features and mechanics in this set that can definitely be fun to play. Definitely, even if you don't and you like and you want to just play them together, they're the 2 small expansions you could pick up if you want things with more flavor. Would definitely be picking up the Guardians of the Galaxy and then the Spider-Man set, because the Guardians has lots of duplicate cards in there, divided cards, which can add for some fun, interesting interactions with these. Spider-Man has some danger sense. And then the base game, the MCU Phase 1, had, again, like all the main heroes are all just reprints of the base game heroes, but some of the villains have new abilities and different things like that. It would be kind of cool if they made a Phase 2 base set for this, just that way, hey, here's updated versions of like those original characters, or just some of the new ones. But I hope they continue with these. Just that way, if people want to keep playing with them, they can. But we'll definitely see what happens. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.